Hi guys, so today I wanted to share with you my experience when it comes to our customers placing new orders or new design collections with us and the various factors that I'd like you guys to bear in mind. For example, working around the different seasons of the year as to when you aim to launch your new collections, as well as what you may have to think about when restocking, how much or little to reorder with your supplier, and also the timing and when to do it. If you're new here to this channel, hello, I'm Kim, owner of Thai Design Distributors. We're a third-generation family business since 1975, where we have our manufacturing plant in Thailand, producing high-end silver and gold jewelry exclusively for our designers. And we've got our headquarters in London and a sales and support office in the US. If you've got time, just watch my intro video where it explains a little bit more about the purpose of this channel. And of course, please like or subscribe to the channel for all of my latest videos. Any questions that you've got, please just drop them in the comment section below. So I would say that for the majority of my designer customers, we would see them typically create at least 2 big collections a year, your spring, summer, and your autumn, winter collection. When it comes to planning the sample development, in other words, when they come to me ready to have the production of those samples made, we would plan that each collection will typically take at least around 2 months. Now, in terms of planning for your launch and everything else that you have to prepare for, so your photography, marketing, etc., you'd probably want to give yourself an extra cushion and add on another couple of weeks or say a month. So really, in total, you're looking around probably 3 months from start of having your new samples made to finish samples and all your marketing and PR that goes into launching your new collection. Now, those are just for samples. So you've got to bear in mind that once you approve those samples, your supplier would have to have some time to produce the actual stock so you can sell those jewelry pieces as soon as you launch. So that's another 4, 5, or potentially another 6 weeks wait of that production being made and for you to get all that stock in hand. Remember, it depends on the manufacturer and not only what their turnaround is typically, but also what it is at that moment in time. So for instance, one of the biggest contributing factors that affects our turnarounds is always going to be around the Christmas season, because obviously that's everybody's peak season. That's where you're expecting to get as much volume of sales as possible. But for us manufacturers, it's not the month of December that we're super busy. In fact, we start to get a little more quiet from kind of mid-December onwards. It's those 3 to 4 months prior to Christmas, which is our busiest season. So please guys, when you're thinking of developing your new jewelry collection with your supplier, I always work backwards with them when figuring out when the potential end production will be. Let's say a new customer comes to us wanting to start their new collection in, say, the beginning of March, and let's say mid to end of April, we get all the samples developed for them and the customer's happy with the samples and places their official order straight away. That stock is probably going to arrive sometime in June, so it's fitting for the launch of their spring-summer collection. But yes, that's basically how far my customers have to go back in order to plan ahead. Let's just go back and talk a little about what your busiest sales season is going to be. Like I said, for the majority of my customers, it's over Christmas, but that doesn't apply to all businesses. So that might be the case if, say, you have an online jewelry brand selling to anyone around the world. But I also have customers who are, for instance, on the coast or on islands. So their peak season is going to be during their summer months when traffic in tourism is high. And for me as a manufacturer, that's also really nice because it allows my staff at the manufacturing plant to be busy throughout the year. Whenever your predicted busy season is, and if you are a brand new designer wanting to launch your jewelry business, I would really recommend that you wait at least 6 months minimum before the start of your predicted busy season to launch your jewelry brand. Because in my experience working with new designers, they do this in order to allow time for their brand to be recognized and time to grow. So like it's common for me to be approached by designers in early springtime so that by the time it's Christmas, they've had more than half the year to get their brand well established. The minority of customers who launch their design brands just before Christmas, I'll admit, have a hard time selling their stock because they just haven't had the chance to grow their brand. I just don't want you guys to go through that and have this expectation come Christmas time that maybe you're not getting the volume of sales you've hoped for. And if you don't mind that and you still want to launch your brand at whatever date you've aimed for, then that's cool too. But, just be prepared and maybe don't set too high of an expectation. But yeah, if you're not in a huge rush, I'd suggest you wait until earlier in the year to launch your brand. So while we're talking about planning for your seasonal sales, I have customers who also focus not only on their main busy period, Christmas for example, but also for all the other major holidays or occasions that are throughout the year. I've had customers come to me straight after the Christmas period, for example, wanting to work on a special collection aimed for Valentine's Day in February. That allows enough time for the sample development, etc., before they place their official order of that collection. And then you've got your Mother's Day, which in the UK, that's in March, and then Father's Day in June, and so on and so on. So I guess in a way, it kind of feels like non-stop designing, right? Obviously, you guys don't need to go as far as that, and you can just stick to your two main collections of the year, so your spring, summer, and your autumn, winter collection. But I just want you to have an idea of how other successful jewelry designers work throughout the year. And maybe it's just something for you guys to bear in mind and work up to as you build your brand. Anyway, the busiest time though, historically, has always been Christmas. So focus on that, guys. Now, when it comes to placing orders and the turnaround of deliveries, I would really, really like to stress how important it is for you to allow time for your supplier or manufacturer to produce your order. By this, I'm of course referring to jewelry that is custom produced, so manufacturing from start to finish, as opposed to you ordering stock off the shelf, which the supplier probably has in stock. I'm probably speaking on behalf of all manufacturers here when I say that it can somewhat be frustrating for us receiving orders like a month or two before Christmas. For instance, we have customers placing their orders with us as early as July, and that's not uncommon. With regards to typical turnarounds, for us, typically it's usually 4 to 6 weeks between January to September, and then September through to December, because it's more our busiest time of the year, you might be looking maybe around 5 to 8 weeks max. I want you guys to know that during that busy period, it's busy for all suppliers. So that includes companies that we have to use to complete the jewelry designs, whether it's stone suppliers, where we're outsourcing gemstones, or plating or laser companies. Those folks are going to be a lot busier too. So please just bear in mind that it's really important that we all have enough time as possible to produce the goods for customers. And what really helps us is when you, the designer customer, places your orders well in advance. This goes back to when I was talking about allowing yourself at least 6 months before you get to your busy season to gain followers and establish your brand identity, because by the time you place your Christmas stock, you should hopefully have an understanding of what your best-selling jewelry is or most popular line, so that you can place your orders for them in advance with your supplier. As you know, different manufacturers have different turnarounds because some might be able to do everything in-house, such as cutting stones, plating, lasering, etc. But it also depends on what type of manufacturing the jewelry is going to be made. So with us, you guys know it's casted handmade jewelry. So there's a lot of time and skill that's required. And you know, we're not the kind of company that likes to rush production because we simply can't compromise on quality. Regarding the planning of reordering your stock, there should hopefully be a dialogue or communication about what your supplier's turnaround typically should be throughout the year, so you can plan ahead. If you haven't already, please reach out to them and just find that out, because ultimately it's better that you have stock coming earlier and sitting with you than to have no stock at all when you need it. So one of the practices that we do typically is usually around the September or at least the very early October time, we'd send an email out to the majority of our main customers and remind them that, look, if you want goods before Christmas, you have up to this date. So whether that date is a week or 2 weeks away, to please place orders, because otherwise, if it's going to go past that date, you're unlikely to get it in time for Christmas. So we're just providing a fair warning. But even throughout the year, there might be national holidays for your supplier that you're not aware of. So for example, in China, during Chinese New Year, during the month of February, that may mean that your supplier might be shut down for a whole month. And that's a long time to wait if, say, you're having a new sample developments made or you're needing stock for a particular time or event. So a couple of tips I really want to share with you guys is the timing of developing any new design samples. We're not talking about reordering stock, we're talking about new designs being made and sort of just being absolutely realistic about factoring in the length of that development time into all your planning, marketing, etc. for, let's say, your launch date. So let me give you an example of what I mean about being realistic about the timing of the development process. It's common for new customers, after they've met us and they've given us lots of jewelry design sketches of a collection that they want for a particular launch date that they aim for. Let's say that deadline launch date is 3 months' time. So what that means is in 3 months, they want to have these new samples completely developed, to be approved, the new stock ordered, and with them ready for their launch date in 3 months' time. Now, in the past, I've been put under this pressure before, and through experience, I've learned that it's really going to be impossible for me to commit to any particular launch date or deadline, because at the end of the day, no one can predict exactly how long or how successful the development of these initial samples will take. For instance, we've been given sketches and we've made CADs for them according to the sketches, the measurements the customers provide, etc. But let's say after you see screenshots of the CADs, you want to change certain measurements. So that adds on time. Or let's say after seeing the samples, you decide you want to amend it and we're having to chop and change the design. Basically, that might mean that we have to go back to the CAD designs and re-amending those. Then you're reprinting the new resins, you're making new masters and molds, etc. And so by that time, who knows how many days or weeks have been added. And that's just for the sample development, let alone the several weeks we need to add on for the actual order to be manufactured. I've had situations where we've gone back and forth so many times on the design development that the funny thing is that in the end, the designs were actually pretty different to the original sketches given to us. The point is, guys, you never know what's going to happen during the development process. And I've said it before that there needs to be an investment in time and potentially back and forth amendments in the development of the CAD designs. The CADs have to be 100% perfect, and you need to take your time and not feel pressured that you have X amount of weeks left before a launch date. Invest the time in that process and don't rush it. Sometimes when you see CADs in a two-dimensional form, it can look different to what you had in mind based on the sketches you drew. And, let's say if you're working one-on-one with a CAD designer, some of them will only allow you a certain amount of chop and changing to each design. Otherwise, they'll start charging you for every additional amendment. But remember, once the samples are made and it's all good, from my standpoint as a manufacturer, work then becomes pretty easy, because after that, it's just repeat regular orders, which should just be a nice, smooth production. Lastly, another tip I wanted to share with you is thinking of creating a sort of set routine with your supplier when it comes to when you'll typically want to work on a new sample development with them. By getting into, let's say, a yearly repeat cycle of certain months in the year when you'll want to be working with them on new designs will not only increase the value of the relationship that you have with your supplier, and that trusted connection, but routine also allows stability and security for both businesses. When I first joined the company after university, I basically stepped into my dad's role in the sales and marketing. And, there was pressure on my end because he passed away even before I joined the business. But one of the things that really helped me feel comfortable and secure in my role was working with customers who would come out to our manufacturing plant more or less the same months in the year and working on their new jewelry collection. There was one guy, an older gentleman, who would visit me at our manufacturing plant every January or February, and then later on in June to discuss and develop his new spring, summer, and autumn-winter collection. And he had a really successful brand for over 20 years and had stock in Harrods, Selfridges, and some other UK department stores. And I would just be there with my production team, translating everything from English to Thai and vice versa, and just enjoying understanding his sketches to make samples. And it was a lot of fun. And, I still do this with regular customers who come out every year to work on their new designs. And it's always really nice to just build on that rapport and the trust in the relationship. So, whether you're visiting your supplier or you're doing Zoom calls at certain times throughout the year to discuss your new collection, it's really important. And I know as a manufacturer, I love it. So I would encourage you guys to maybe think of, again, planning all your new design collections in advance and share your plans with your supplier so it really feels like you're building on this strong collaborative team together. So that's it. I really hope you guys found that helpful. I know there's a lot there that I've covered, but I hope you can use some of it to help build your jewelry brand. Have a good day, and I'll see you in my next video. Take care, guys. Bye.